Hey guys, welcome to a catch-up episode with 1844 Resource President Sylvain Laberge. Sylvain, you just announced this week a financing. What's going on with the company? Why this financing? And what's going to happen with this financing?
Well, pretty simple. I think since the last update we did on 1844, a few changes occurred. We actually acquired. We announced that we're acquiring by option a project called Hawk Ridge. That was announced on March 6th at the PDAC, and the reason is pretty simple. The opportunity was there. The resource and the metal was of interest for us. It's part of the strategic metal that we always been working on in 1844 resource. It doesn't mean that we're putting aside the Gaspé region. The Gaspé region is still our focus. We still believe there's something else in the Gaspé region, but since we had this opportunity that showed up, we decided to jump on. And since it's by option, so we need to raise money to be able to do our first payment in probably at the end of June. And at the same time, part of that money will be for our administration, GNA, and making sure that we're properly positioning ourselves with this new project that we're acquiring.
So you mentioned option agreement. So what is an option agreement?
Option agreement is that instead of buying an asset with full cash and shares on one shot because it's too expensive, we kind of spread the payments on 5 payments over 4 years. So we have a payment at the initial acceptance from the TSX venture, and we have a year after, we have a second payment, so on until the 4th anniversary. Then it's fully our project. We have to issue shares, which is 10 million shares over the next 4 years to the company that is selling us the optioner.
Typically, is this the type of transaction we see in the mining sector? Or not?
Definitely, there's plenty of companies that are doing options agreement, either with prospectors or even with other companies. Sometimes companies that have a lot of assets in their portfolio, they'll try to diversify. What happens is that at a certain point they have certain assets that they want to work and concentrate on. So instead of letting the other assets dying or falling apart, they decide to option it to a second party. Sometimes the option is only for 50% of the asset. We saw 60%. It all depends on the optionee and the auctioneer, how they want to work it out. In our case, we wanted to acquire the asset at 100%. We could have done a joint venture, which we didn't agree on because of certain situation that I can't talk. We'd rather have the 100% control of the asset in 4 years and being able to go forward.
Now let's talk about the asset a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you're optioning this asset 100%. So obviously, it's something that's interesting.
It is something that is interesting. Actually, in the press releases we issued in the last month and a half, we mentioned that this is a strategic point for 1844. We're going from a grassroots exploration in the Gaspé region to an advanced project. The project by itself already has 34 million tons at 0.56% nickel equivalent. It's a nickel, copper, cobalt, and PGE, platinum, palladium. The grades are pretty interesting. The tonnage is still low, but if I look at the 43101 that has been issued last year by the company, the auctioneer, the 34 million can be increased by 60 million. So it could be an asset that, down the line could grow from 65 to 100 million tons. There's a great possibility. It's in the Labrador Trough. It's on the Circum-Superior belt. It's if I look at the Circum-Superior, you have the Thompson area in Manitoba, which produce over 250 million tons. Then you have in Quebec, you have Raglan and you have Nunavik mine from Canadian Royalties. If I look at Raglan, they're producing 1.3 million tons a year in 3 underground mines, and I don't have the data for Canadian Royalties, but at least I know that Raglan, when they started, they had 17 million tons, and they were going underground, and the mine was supposed to be 20-year lifetime, and they were at that time producing 130,000 tons a year. So you can imagine they went from 130,000 tons a year to 1.3 million tons a year, and they're still in production. And we're like 1997 to today, we're 25 years down the line.
Yeah, it's almost double what Raglan started with.
Yeah, it's increasing. They're making new discoveries every day. If I look at their strike zone, they have about 70 kilometers going west to east. Our property, when you go down on the Labrador Trough, it's going north to south. It's 50 kilometers strike zone. We're right by the tidewater. We're right on the Ungava Bay. So access during summer by barge or by boat is possible to extract the ore body to take it out somewhere else. It's possible. So it's probably one of the best situations in that sector, because the tidewater is critical in that sector if you want to be able to work with your ore as you go along.
So you mentioned 2 names. You mentioned Glencore Raglan,
Yeah.
Canadian Royalties. Who else in Quebec would you say that has a project like yours currently? Or like this project, the Hawkwood project?
Definitely there's Canadian Nickel that has a project, but it's not in Quebec, it's in Ontario.
So in Quebec?
In Quebec, there's not that many. There's one in the Abitibi region. Beside that, in the same type of deposits with gabbro with disseminated sulfides and massive sulfides, I can't imagine. I can't see anything else for the moment.
So you may have something that's pretty much big and unique.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. It's not like I'm not coming out today and saying this is the future mine in Quebec. It takes a while to build a mine, first of all. This project has been discovered in 1898, so you can imagine it's been a long time. It was then worked in the early 60s and the early 70s by Falconbridge. They had a small production on the area, but you have to remember in those days the price of copper, and the price of nickel was pretty low, and the position of the property was quite an adventure, because it was quite expensive to be able to go and drill and extract from there. Prices have changed a lot. We saw in the last couple of days, copper went from $3.98 to $4.20 yesterday. It's retracted today to $4.08. Nickel is the same. It went up yesterday. So we know that in the future, there's going to be a bull market in basically in all the strategic metals, either nickel, copper, cobalt, lithium. Lithium, I think, is a little bit overpriced right now, but it's going to stabilize at a certain point. You have graphite that's going to be a big issue. So those strategic metals are coming into a bull market for the next, I would say, about 30 years.
30?
Yeah, we all know that every government in the world is trying to, create clean energy. So we're looking at, there's going to be a lot of changes in the future. If I look at just the automobile, we're seeing more and more electric cars on the road. So the electric car is going to need a lot more for the batteries. They're going to need a lot more graphite, a lot more lithium, a lot more copper, a lot more nickel. I can go on and on and on. So the demand is there. The other problem that we have is, and people don't realize, is that we're caught right now with a shortage of certain resource. If I look at the Chilean production in the last year, from November 2021 to 2022, the Chilean production decreased by 7%. If I look at what happened in Peru, a couple of majors closed their mines
we saw
because
that.
of geopolitical problems. Congo is the same thing. So we're having certain issues with geopolitical. So what's the best solution is to make new discoveries in regions that are, I would say, the human is more worth it than the resource.
Well, the labor laws are
The
are
labor law is a
well-controlled.
lot better than certain countries, and we can, and at the same time we can control exactly what kind of minerals we're going to take out of the ground. Where we're always surveilled by the environmentalists, and that's okay. And we need them. We need to have somebody watching over the companies to make sure that we're not doing mistakes.
Checks and balances. That's what they are. Checks and balances from the government, which is fair.
But they have to understand, and population has to understand that the resource or the resources in the next 30 years are going to be crucial. And you don't want to be at the mercy of certain countries. We're seeing right now, there seems to be a gap going between the autocracy and the democracy. We're seeing Brazil, China, Russia trying to get together, do their own things, and we're looking at the European Union, the States, Canada, trying to do something else. So at a certain point, is it better that we have our own production, we have our own minerals, and not being at the mercy of what's going on? If I give you an example in nickel right now, the largest nickel mine in the world is in Russia.
Yeah.
So right now, there's no way of getting anything from nickel from Russia.
But without going a little bit too far, a question for you. Let's say a container of copper just gets stuck. What happens to the copper supply worldwide? Because I think that needs to be brought up.
Yeah. If a major event occurred that they cannot supply the world reserves within the next 3 to 10 days, we're in a shortage. We're in a squeeze.
So the supply is that tight currently.
That tight.
So that's why we need to have these copper discoveries.
Yeah. We need those copper discoveries. We need these nickels discovery. Since we started working on the whole plan of doing the acquisition of this project, I've been reading a lot. I was pretty good in copper, and now I'm starting to understand a little bit more in nickel. We were the first producer of nickel from in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And now it's all turned around. We're probably at the bottom list of being the producers of nickel in the world. Same thing in copper. We were the largest copper producer for years. And obviously, I'm glad to work in the Gaspé region, because that just the Gaspé copper mine is going to change the trend totally in Canada. We're looking at a mine that could be in production in the next couple of years. It's owned by Osisko Metal, or it's not finalized yet, but it should be owned by Osisko Metal. And their idea is to put it in production. It was not considered. It was the largest copper mine in North America for 45 years. So you can imagine they produce 141 million tons over 45 years. Now, the resource they came out with last year, we're looking at 450 million tons still in the ground, and with grades anywhere between 0.30 to 0.40. They're coming out last week. They were top 10 largest drill holes in North America. They got 330 meters drill hole at 0.55, 0.60. I can't remember exactly the grades, but they're striking new zones that are incredible. They announced prior to the new year, they announced a drill hole of a 1.1 kilometer long.
I saw that.
Mineralized.
That's huge.
It's incredible. So that could put us back on track of being one of the, not largest, but one of the best copper producer in the world. And that's a big change because it attracts investment. It attracts, and what people have to understand too is that when we get investment coming out of Australia, we have investment coming out of Japan, of Korea. That's good for the economy, and we can't, we're not a service country. We have minerals, we have forestry, we have oil and gas, and that's how the economy is built, with your natural resource. Because if you become a service country, you're going to be at the service of everybody, and the day they cut off everything, you're dead.
The way when they pull the plug, well, you're stuck holding the bag. Now, going back to your project, so we talked about the Gaspé region. Now, this project, what could that mean for Quebec?
Another source of nickel feed. I wouldn't say it won't be the largest mine, and I can't say we're still in that phase where we have to go and explore. Definitely what we want, part of the summer program that we're putting in place, we want to drill about 2,000 meters, approximately 2,000 meters. We want to do some channeling on surface. We want to do some exploration. The beauty of that project being 50 kilometers long, the resource that I've been talking about is only on 4 showings. We have about 42 showings that we still have to explore.
So there's room to explore.
There's room to explore. The other thing too is that I had a meeting with the natives, the Inuits, and they're great people, and they have, and they want to work, and they're willing to get along with us and to start working with us. And it's interesting, really interesting, because I looked at the agreements that they signed with Raglan and with Canadian Royalties. So they're part of the companies, and that's probably what's going to happen if we go forward. My goal is to increase the resource that we have right now, try to make new discoveries. I'm not getting younger, so definitely what I'd like is to bring it to a certain level and pass it along to somebody else.
Probably a bigger name.
Either a bigger name or an experienced team that will come in, because we're good in exploration, but I have to give away that project when it comes to a certain level to somebody else that will probably bring it from PEA to pre-feasibility to feasibility. I know my capacity, and I know I'm going to have to step down at a certain point. But if I step down and it's a viable project, and it creates jobs for the Inuits, and it creates job for certain people in the sector of Bécamo and Sept-Îles and all those places, that's perfect.
And at that point, you'll have already built value for investors as well.
That's right. I was looking at a company this morning that has similar grades that what we have. Definitely, they have a lot more tonnage. They've been at it for a longer time. The other thing that people have to understand, this project for the last 10 years has been like on a sleeping mode, and not much work was done in the last 10 years. So it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get things back on track, and to see if we can increase that resource to a lot more tonnage than what it is right now. But when I was looking at this project this morning, it has a lot more tonnage, but we're looking at a company with 23 million market cap. We're still at 3 million market cap. So you can see that there's a great upside on this thing. Yes, we have 79 million shares outstanding. We're going to be issuing with this financing about 40 million shares. So it will bring us to 120 million shares. But when I was looking at this company this morning, they have 425 million shares. So it's crazy. And we have a good structure where we have great shareholders. We're
well managed.
Well managed. I'll let that to my shareholders. but I think it's well managed. We're always thinking out of the box. We're not,
Clearly, with looking at this project, clearly thinking outside the box.
You have to look outside the box, and you have to look at what you can accomplish and not what has been accomplished. What has been accomplished, you have to take in consideration. It was in time. From the 60s to the 70s, there was a program. From the 70s to 96, there was another. Like there was 3 companies that took that property, and then from 96 to 2012, there was like 3 other companies that took over from the other, and it was hard time. You have to remember that we went through the BRIEX. We went to in the 70s and 80s where everything in natural resource crashed down. And the technologies weren't there. The extraction programs weren't the same. A lot of things have changed. So you have to put everything in consideration that, yes, we're acquiring a project, but we think we can go forward. We think we can bring the resource from an inferred to an indicated, and we can probably increase that resource of 34 million into an indicated and an inferred, a lot larger than what we have right now. And from going forward, our game is to bring it to a provable resource.
Now, your current financing is at 5 cents.
Current financing is at 5 cents. We're giving with the shares. We're giving a warrant at 7.5 cents. Good for 36 months. It's a good point of entry, and I cannot say to people, get in, but it's a good point of entry.
Well, we can say, considered what you just brought up with a similar company, similar project, has more tonnage, but it's not as big as yours. Well, I think it's safe to say that it looks like there may be more upside.
Definitely.
And at this entry price, at a nickel, it could be a good price.
Yeah. And the other thing too is when you're a shareholder, because if some people are listening to us that are shareholder, we specified it in the press release that every shareholder from last Friday is eligible to participate. We all know that it's not easy. We cannot all participate because we're not accredited investors. And that's why we open to all shareholders. So even if you're not an accredited investor, you can participate in the financing up to $15,000. So we opened it to, we want to give something to our shareholders.
Well, that's good news. So Sylvain, thank you very much for coming in. Let's have a beer. Let's try these guys. So as you guys know, we're sponsored by Domaine Berthiaume. Domaine Berthiaume, right out of Saint-Jean from Richelieu. They're one of our sponsors. And they make, honestly, good beer. Great beer. So today we're going to try I think this one it's not a stout, but it is a brown.
Yeah, it is.
Brown ale. And I think you know these guys too. So let's give it a try.
It's a stout. It's a light stout.
Light stout. So let's give it a try. Put it right here. There we go. That's a nice sound. Well, Sylvain, we're going to cheers to good financing, but cheers mostly to a good project that has a good upside, and that's right here in our own province in Quebec. Yep. And I mean, I think it's important to encourage projects in Quebec, especially knowing that there's a scarcity in resources. So, yep. Sylvain, best luck with the financing. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the update. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below. And if you liked that video, why don't you check out our others? Like this beautiful one here.